Hello, everyone. Welcome to Green Hope Foundation's World Circular Economy Forum official online site event, Circular Economy Solutions to Accelerate SDG Implementation. My name is Kehkasha Basu. I am the founder president of Green Hope Foundation. A very, very warm welcome to our wonderful panelists and audience joining us on Zoom and Facebook Live. While the welcome news of an imminent vaccine to this pandemic that has locked down our lives is like the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, it will need much more than a vaccine to put our world back on track. The process of rebuilding better will require transformational change of dimensions that must address the needs of society, the environment, and the economy in equal balance. We cannot return to our wasteful ways, to patterns of linear consumption. So it's time to consume with care and move towards a circular economy. And with that, I give the floor to our moderator. Over to you, Pragna.
Thank you so much, Kehkasha. Hello, everyone. I am Pragna, Head of Events of Green Hope Foundation, and I will be your moderator today. Economic inequality and ecological degradation, the two greatest threats confronting our survival in this 21st century, are inherently caused by the linear economy that we live in today. And the pandemic has only revealed the gross inadequacies of our economies and of our infrastructure. With almost 700 million people living in poverty currently, now more than ever, we need an economy that focuses on utilizing our resources towards the ambitious and comprehensive human development program ever designed, Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. We need to shift from the make-dispose mentality of the linear economy that we live in to a more broader, more inclusive, and eco-effective model of economy that not only has a positive impact on the ecology, but also on the society. One that does not hurt the pockets of our globe and goes hand in hand with sustainability. In order to apply these principles in practice, interaction across generations and various sectors of civil society, including the youth, is imperative. So, on that note, I am pleased to welcome our amazing panelists today. Our first panelist is Douglas Regan, Specialist, Children and Youth UN Habitat, to speak on the role of institutions such as UN Habitat in the implementation of a circular economy through the achievement of the SDGs. Mr. Regan, the floor is yours.
Doug, you're on mute.
I'm on mute, thanks. Thank you so much, Pragna, Kakashan, and the whole Green Hope team. I'm really honored to be here. I see many amazing young people on this panel, and so I will try to reflect the young people that we work with in UN Habitat and the power of young people to create what you say is a circular economy and help us build back better. I have put together a small PowerPoint, which is principally just some photos and such that you can see some of the work that young people are doing. I'd like to just begin this with basically saying that the circular economy, and as Kakashan says, now that we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train coming towards us, but it actually is our way to get through this horrible pandemic we're in, we must start looking at how we can build an equitable and environmentally and socially equitable economy and society. And so I want to take the social side of the circular economy we're looking at, because sometimes we can get lost in the numbers. We can get lost in how we have to reduce and recycle, which we clearly have to do, but we also have to make sure that the poorest of the poor, those most marginalized, are also brought along. So I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully it'll work. 3, 2, 1, start broadcast. So is it, there we go. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I can assume you can. So I wanted to kind of give maybe a quick case study of a group that we work with here. So I'm with UN Habitat. UN Habitat is in charge of urban sustainability for the United Nations system. That's our mandate. My specific mandate, I work with the Human Rights and Social Inclusion Unit, and I focus on children and youth, and have done so for many years, both with UN and with the within the civil society sector. So what I wanted to focus on quickly was just what I'm calling youth-led action for a sustainable economy. This is a group that we work with in Mathari Informal Settlement. Some of you, if you followed any of the work that Kakishan has done recently, might have seen Isaac Mwasa. He's carrying the shovel here. This is the team he works with in Mathari. And this is actually a shot of their launch of their their Mathari Environmental One-Stop Upcycling Program. So you see recycling 101 on one side and upcycle on the other side in terms of the banners. And upcycling meaning not just recycling waste, not just turning it back into the economy, but actually making more of it, making other products from whatever you're recycling. And this is really critical and important when you're in the informal settlement where there is so few resources. And that's the next point. So I'm just going to speak again from informal settlements, because there's 1 billion people in the world approximately that live in slums and informal settlements. When I'm meaning informal settlements, I'm meaning the poorest of the poor. And the growth rate of these settlements is 10% a year. So every year there's 10% more people living in slums. This is because whether we love it, whatever, people are moving to cities. People move to cities because there's more opportunity, there's more education, there's better healthcare. That's why they move to cities. And this COVID-19 pandemic is an urban pandemic. 80%, the initial numbers when this pandemic started, 80% of the virus spread was in cities. And you can imagine in places such as Mumbai and Delhi and such, the numbers are huge when we're talking about the numbers of people getting infected because of this. In these informal settlements, you have 800 million young people, many of them young people living in informal settlements, are making less than US $2 a day. That's really important to understand, especially coming from a developed world perspective. Urban population growth in the developing world is 3.5 times that of the developed world. So again, the developing world is growing much quicker, and the places that it's growing is in cities. That's where we're looking at. Urbanization it's happening. We don't have a choice about it. If you look at the history of international development and development assistance, a lot of it has been what we consider to kind of keep them on the farm. So international development was very much trying to maintain rural populations in rural cities. That's just our rural areas. That is just not happening. It is moving towards cities. We must make cities sustainable. And so 56 million young people in the developing countries live in poverty despite them being employed. And that's also another important thing to recognize, that sometimes people are employed, whatever economy, circular, not in, or linear, whatever economy they're employed in, but they are what we call underemployed. We think a lot of young people, especially say in Mathari, might have 5 jobs. And that might seem great, but what we're talking about is huge number of hours, and they have no social security net, nothing that can protect them against the worst parts that can be in a job. So these 156 million young people are not working in great conditions. So that sets the stage of what I'm saying is the social side of the circular economy. We must look at, if we're going to float this boat, it has to be floated for everybody to raise themselves up, not just the 1%, not just the most elite. So circular economy, let's just start. So this is actually taken from a study that was done in the Mumbai slum. So I've taken some of the information. The photos, though, are photos from Mathari. So in a socially equitable and ecologically equitable circular economy, nothing is wasted. This is, of course, what we want to do. And this study, actually, that I can give you reference to, basically shows that Mumbai is, the slum of Mumbai was huge in terms of the economy focused on recycling of plastics. I mean, there was in this slum alone, 250,000 workers actually were linked to recycling of plastic. So they called it a gold mine of circular economy. So anything is recycled, anything and everything is recycled, because there are nothing else you can do in a society in which there is so little resources. Again, remember, $2 a day. You just have to think of what that means in terms of people surviving. And then this study said that the mindset of not wasting anything means that may not come from a sustainability standpoint, but nonetheless, it works out to be a sustainable model. I kind of disagree with this, because what they're saying is sustainability standpoint is solely economic, or it's solely looking at consumption. Yes, it's true that these people by default are in state. They have to be sustainable because they have no choice, because there is so little there. We must, when we're looking at emerging from the post-COVID economy that we hope will be there, we must, yes, look at the ecological side, but we have to look at the social side. The pictures across the top are some of the things that they're doing. Within Mathari, we see there's tons of plastics. Again, people live in plastics. They almost live in their own waste. And you can all see in the background, Barry Bar, and the second thing, a green machine, that is a shredding machine. So all that plastic is shredded. And what they do with that plastic is they can make things, and this is just an example of a little thing they've made of on the right-hand side of the shape of Africa and such. And then also we see this football tournament called the Plastic Cup, which again was celebrating what these young people are doing with Mathari, and celebrating the launch of the upcycling center. What we have to do is build back better. That we can, and building back better means we need, again, to look at the social economy side. So when we're looking at the decade of action, which is what is the Secretary General, the UN Secretary General has called for the next 10 years by 2030 to transform our society, we need to look at this as the decade of transformation. We need to have a society that's the health and well-being of everybody and all people is bettered. Second, we need to emphasize local. We need the regenerative economy, which we can see. So local food security, urban agriculture, regenerative agriculture, green infrastructure, and support for small business innovators. We have to look at the local, and that's something we at UN Habitat strongly believe: local government, community-led solutions, and such. And last, and this is again, like I say, is when I'm looking at this circular economy, I'm looking at the social side, we must leave no one behind. We're only strong as the most marginalized. And this is something that we've been shown within COVID. We had an opinion, I believe, many people believe that our society wasn't that unequal. You know, some people were a little bit poor and some people were not. Well, this has been blown apart by what we've seen with happening in COVID-19. It is the poorest communities that have the highest death rates. Why? So if you're in North American context, the African American, the Latino, all the racialized communities, they have had higher death rates because they have lack of access to healthcare. They are losing their jobs at insane rates. We no longer have the ability to say, or the knowledge to say in any ethical way, that the world is an equitable place. It is not. And we have to, if we're going to have a sustainable world, look at creating equity. And equity means that everybody, to the best of their abilities, has the same opportunities. And that's what we're looking at. So as I say in the last slide, COVID laid bare the existing injustices. So when we're looking at Black Lives Matter, when we're looking at Me Too, this is part of our economy, the social, the physical, the economic, but the social side of the economy. We have to make sure that everyone, as we build back so that everyone has equal opportunities to move ahead. And again, these are just some photos, some very positive photos of some of the things that's happening in this informal settlement. I mean, in the informal settlements, Mathari, 70% of the population is under the age of 30, and even larger percent are children. So, I mean, there's, on the far left, there's children everywhere there, and this is the society. We need to give them hope. On the far right is a football tournament in the only recovered public space in this one community in Mathari. It's a football pitch. It's not a huge amount, and we wouldn't think a football pitch would be important, or soccer if we're in the North American context, but it's critical, and you see the hundreds and hundreds of people that are there. And this was recovered from an area that was once a garbage dump. This was recovered, and it gives young people hope so that they can live a healthy life. I'd also like to just mention that we're doing this jointly with in partnership with EcoCity Center of Excellence, which is based out of Vancouver, Canada, in the British Columbia Institute of Technology, and a lot of these concepts are actually being developed by them as well. So just to end, I just can't emphasize enough that yes, we must have a circular economy. We must treat the planet better. We can no longer just consume and have it as it was mentioned by the moderator, a linear economy. But this new economy must look both to the ecological as well as social justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Regan, for highlighting the importance of social responsibility. Indeed, we have to reach out to the farthest person first so that we can truly leave no one behind in our quest to create circular economies and achieve the SDGs, focusing on localizing our solutions through community-driven actions. So thank you so much once again for sharing your views with us. I will now move on to our next panelist, Sarah Swenson, independent consultant on climate, forests, and sustainable development, and member of Green Hope Foundation, to talk about the interconnectedness of circular economies with urban sustainability. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think you can hear me now. I'm very happy to be invited to talk in this webinar and to see all of you. And yes, I'm looking forward to this. So right now, in May this year, I moved back to my native Sweden. So for the last few months, I've been working for a local community here, for a local government or authority, and as environmental strategist. So my task was to develop a climate change strategy for 2021 to 2030. And of course, when doing that, all the SDGs has to be included, because you cannot just look at the climate change from one perspective. You have to include all the SDGs in that. And the circular economy is a very important part of that strategy, because in Sweden, most people have, well, the situation is quite opposite from what Doug just presented in developing countries. Well, in Sweden, most people have a lot of stuff and a lot of resources to buy new things, and if you throw away things, the waste goes away and you don't really see it, and you can just replace anything. And that has to change, because it's not sustainable, of course. And some people realize that, but not everybody. And even if you realize it, it's part of the system and the culture to just behave like that. So it's hard to change when things are just available for a cheap amount to, But for me, it's very important to work on creating a more circular economy, because I have also seen the other side, like the production change. I lived for 6 years right before this in Suriname in South America, where the Amazon rainforest, of course, is very beautiful and very valuable, but much of it, it's threatened because of the resources that are in the forest itself, like the wood, but also even more what's under the ground, like the metals and other things that you can mine. So when you all constantly need more resources to create new stuff all the time, then these natural environments are going to be lost more and more, and you cannot get that back. So that's something we have to stop as soon as possible, because we already have so much resources that are not being used, and we should really use them better. Because of course, as you know, all the stuff that exists are created from different materials, and with recycling and with even better to just still use the things that are already there and to repair them if needed, and to share them. So what we are trying in the place where I work now, well, it's a local community with 33,000 inhabitants in a place called Falköping in Sweden. And there are young people and old people living there. And like 100 years ago, the societies and communities there were very, very connected. Everybody was sharing and helping each other. Most of the people were farmers there at that time. And still there are many farmers, but everything got more industrialized, and the farmers are not really meeting their customers anymore. They're just selling things to the shop, and children, even if they grew up on the countryside, many of them don't even know where milk comes from. They think it's from a package in the store. So this whole system, I think we need to change that, and to come back to understanding where things come from and how everything is part of a circular system, and to feel included in that. And that can also help everybody who lives there to feel more part of the community, and more inclusion and less inequalities. So we are trying to start with different projects that are like civil society and the private sector and other people who live in that part of the country are coming up with initiatives, and then the local government is supporting that, and also starting some own initiatives to make sure that we find a way to move away from everybody owning for themselves a lot of stuff, everything they think about that they need, and to use that for a short time and throw it away. Instead, we want to make sure that everybody has a few valued belongings that they are using for a long time and very often, and also sharing with others, like so that you borrow from your neighbors and from other people there. So we are both creating this like centralized in like libraries for toys and for clothes and things, where people can come and borrow things that they need, and tools that, so that not everybody has to buy a screwdriver that they maybe use only one time per year, but they can borrow from the local government, or they can borrow from the neighbors. So a lot of people started now to put stickers on their doors if they have a sewing machine or something that they want to let other people borrow. And then that creates a lot of new contacts also. People who didn't talk to each other before, they become friends now because they meet their neighbors or other friends. And we also use digital tools to create this, like an interactive map, putting all those initiatives online, so that even if you don't walk on the street and see the stickers on the door, you can look up where somebody lives who has the thing that you need, and then you can go and visit there. So that is becoming more and more common. And there are also like a lot of places like schools and other buildings where they have furniture, and then they stopped using that furniture or got other needs and bought something else instead. And now all those furniture are just standing there, not being used, and nobody knows about them really. They are forgotten. So now what we did, like last week, we were working a lot on trying to make an inventory of that, of those furniture, and taking photos and putting them into an app, and then putting it online so that everybody who needs them maybe somewhere else, they can find out that they exist, and then they can just get them for free, and we move them over there. So that kind of systems we are trying now to put in place. That needs to be, that are some of the things that need to be done in rich countries. Yeah, and also in other places, of course, where it works. But I think that the circular economy needs to be created in different ways depending on the context that you live in. And there are different initiatives that can complement each other, and then that can work in different contexts. But we it is very important to share what we are doing in different parts of the world so that we can learn from each other and get ideas from each other and try new things to make this work. And all the time, I think that there is both money to gain from this and ecological gains and social gains. So it's really good examples of sustainable development when everything comes together and the sustainable development goals are met through different perspectives at the same time. So I hope we can do this much more in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that with us. These ground level actions sound wonderful. You are right. We cannot just focus on one SDG. We have to focus on all the SDGs. The time for consuming with care has never been more important, and we need to understand how we are all part of this circular system. So thank you so much once again. I would now like to invite our next panelist, Aliyu, Chapter Head, Green Hope Liberia, to highlight the barriers impeding the creation of circular economies. Aliyu, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm glad to be here. Quickly, let me just jump into our conversation regarding barriers that is affecting or that is stopping our involvement with circular economy. But before then, let me just give a brief of analogy about something that basically in my country, we don't consider that as circular economy, but on the reality it is. So where I'm from the village of my, in Liberia, Grand Kiban County is a region. And basically we will observe that our parent will go to town, like we'll go to Central Monrovia, the capital city, and then they will bring back used clothes from our relatives, and then we used to see this like as something very beautiful, and we'll use them until they are at the point where they can no longer be used. That is basically a circular form of using materials that it does not need to be wasted just after the first use. Okay, back to our conversation. Every item we buy and eventually discard has significant impact on the health of our earth. Almost half of the product we consume today, with the exception of some eco-friendly items, are made of brand new materials, often in facilities that drain access of both water and energy. Consequently, the items we consume are dumped into landfills, contributing to economic inefficiency, material waste, and environmental destruction. On that note, let us direct the conversation to economic circulations. It is an alternative to a traditional linear economy. Obviously, no, a traditional linear economy is a make, use, and dispose, in which we keep resources used for as long as possible, extract the maximum value from them while in use, then recover and regenerate produce and materials at the end in each service cycle. Henceforth, we have factors that have and will affect the creation of a circular economy. Some of these factors include cultural. Cultural hesitant companies are so hesitant to culture. They believe that, okay, people are just so believe and used to this form of economic system, and basically another innovative introduction might cause an economic crash, which prevalently is not true. Regulatory, limited circular procurement, obstructions law and regulations, and lacking global consensus. Let's look at the market. One factor: low virgin material prices, limited standardization, higher upfront investment costs, and limited funding of circular businesses. Technological factors: manufacturer products, limited circular design, lack of data. Example, like knowing the impact. Basically, in my country, we are a bit far away from maybe even diverting to a circular economy, because basically the level of awareness about even the name circular economy is rare to find. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are the world's best plan to build a better world for people and our planet by 2030. The circular economy, an inspiring concept that is gaining tremendous attraction worldwide, is concerned with the effective scaling and sustainable economic model within planetary boundaries. The principle of extending the life cycle of materials to keep the value of product and materials in the loop as high as possible and as long as possible is central to this vision, as in the transition to renewable energy, respect for biodiversity, societal balance, and social inclusion. Working on the circular economy means working on the majority of the SDGs, not as a cost item, but as a business model. In some areas of the world, action takes place under the framework of the SDGs. In other countries, climate issues are the dominant driver for action. Some focus on measures that are creating sustainable and economical viable cities, while there are also regions such as my country, Liberia, which set out on the transition towards a circular economy. Some of the strongest relationship exists between the circular economy practices and the targets of the SDGs, 6, clean water and sanitation. Like for SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, SDG 8, decent work. These are all interconnectable goals and targets from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that can help in influencing or helping with us transitioning from a linear economic system to a more sustainable circular economic system. Let us look at some of those entities or example, real life issues or real life happening that is positively impacting our world. These are entities that have transitioned from a linear or system to a more circular economic system. Let's look at the RSA, a sustainable enterprise of handicraft women, gives special attention to sustainability in its production change by employing production crafts and waste from diverse local companies, preferably choosing natural and eco-friendly products. Let's look at the Finnish jewelry company Okuru makes jewelry out of discarded Finnish coins, old silver spoons, and other pottery. After Finland changed its currency to euro, the metal of old Finnish coins was found everywhere. This company found interest in transforming this coin and silver or metal spoon into a jewelry, which is being used widely in that region and have employed thousands amount of people. This is a more decent working environment which have a direct effect on our earth. On that note, I would like to take this time to remind international and world leaders that for us to have a sustainable world and a better future, for a better and a conservationist of mind, let us redirect our energy and resources into a more circular economic system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. You are right. The interconnectedness of the SDGs is absolutely crucial for the creation of circular economies. We also definitely need that mindset change, beginning with people becoming aware of what a circular economy system is in the first place, so that we can ease with this transition from a linear economy to a circular economy. So thank you so much once again for sharing that with us. I would now like to move to our next speaker, Erin Isabel, Outreach Officer, Green Hope Foundation, to address the challenges of circular economies and how the SDGs can be used to eradicate them. Erin, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Isabel, and I'm thrilled to be on this panel among such exceptional individuals. To dive right in, let me explain my understanding of what a circular economy is. It's, well, a loop in which we make the maximum use of the resources at our disposal before they are regenerated upon reaching redundancy. It essentially aims to redefine growth, focus on society benefits, and it's based on three principles of ensuring that we remove waste and pollution from the process, we keep the products and materials consistently in use, and we ultimately regenerate them. So to explain this more systematically, natural resources are used, they're manufactured, they're consumed, and after this, there are two routes. One where they could either be wasted, or second, they could be recycled and ultimately converted into the resources that we started with, thus creating the entire concept of a circular economy. I believe that the barriers towards achieving a circular economy are firstly, the lack of awareness of what a circular economy even is, and the willingness of individuals to actually partake in it. Secondly, it's discovering how to engage in an economy. And thirdly, the legislation that exists that prevents us to support a transition to a circular economy. The big question is, how exactly can we catalyze this shift in mindset into a more sustainable future without actually knowing how to get us there? There may be individuals who would love to maximize the use of a product, but if they're incapable of knowing how to, then knowledge of the concept of a circular economy is entirely redundant. And that really is why today the circular economy ideology has been best executed on paper, but not as much in implementation. I do think that the Sustainable Development Goals, on the other hand, are a pivotal blueprint to help us navigate all these challenges that are being posed to us. For example, we know that technology is an overarching force in our world, and this is, of course, leading to an immense increase in energy usage. The most obvious solution is using Goal 9 of the Sustainable Development Goals that focuses on industrial innovation and infrastructure to actually implement more innovative elements into our products to thus maximize the utility of an object without using as much energy. And similarly, Goal 7 that focuses on using solar and wind energy and thermal power to actually, and harnessing these alternative forms of energy to power our machines will ultimately help us preserve those finite resources in our planet, while again, ultimately infinitely maximizing the use of the infinitely available sources of energy at our disposal. The benefits of the circular economy is essentially knowing for a fact that renewable energies in the long run are less polluting than fossil fuels. Secondly, because of the entire process of reusing fewer materials and production processes are there and are required to produce excellent products. And thirdly, because the wastage is actually absorbed into the process. Some of the most effective circular economy implementation strategies that I've seen have actually included the work that has been done by Green Hope Foundation. A few months ago, Green Hope conducted a workshop for the Al Nabuda Construction Company where we explained ways in which we could create a sustainable workplace while maximizing efficiency at a workplace to ensure minimum wastage. Green Hope has also conducted a workshop for workers at the Expo 2020 site on the similar topic. The UN mandate emphasizes on leaving no one behind on the route to sustainability, and Green Hope has effectively adhered to this ideology by conducting workshops for students across all Emirates in the UAE and even across the world. One event being the annual Middle East Youth Expo 2020. Green Hope has also launched a multitude of events like the recycling campaigns, which have all created such a profound outcome because every stakeholder in these events are ultimately ignited to find a way that they themselves can contribute towards creating a circular economy. I genuinely think that with proper implementation of all the SDGs, effective legislature, and meaningful partnerships, like Ms. Zara Svensson said, ensuring that we share this knowledge and find initiatives that complement each other will ultimately help us build back better. So I truly hope that this entire panel creates a positive shift in mentality of all our viewers today. And I look forward to hearing the rest of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your perspective with us. Indeed, awareness and cooperation across various sectors of civil society is crucial in achieving an equitable and sustainable economy. And thank you so much for highlighting the ground level projects done by Green Hope Foundation. With that, I would like to invite our next speaker, Aryan Orpe, Campaign Officer, Green Hope UAE, to address the social and environmental benefits of regenerative economies. Aryan, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aryan Orpe, and I'm a campaign officer at Green Hope. I've been a member since 2015, and I'm glad to be here at the stage to speak to you about circular economies and their benefits to the country. So I'd like to start off with saying that these are very good questions which should be asked. Planning our societal and economic infrastructure is key to a healthy future. A circular economy encompasses the social and environmental aspects of sustainability because the resources in a circular economy are kept if possible. The maximum value is extracted from these resources whilst in use, then are recovered and regenerated products and materials at the end of each service life. The definition of sustainability in this case is avoidance of the depletion of natural resources to maintain an ecological balance. Thus, this ensures the sustainability of the social and environmental aspects because a circular economy is renewable and can be sustained for a long period of time. The social aspects of sustainability are present in a circular economy because the society contributes by doing the 3 Rs: reduce, reuse, recycle, and so attempts to use materials for as long as possible through creative means. And once a material cannot be used any longer, it is turned into a new product that can be used. This promotes a feeling of community within people where they all work towards taking care of their environment, which in turn shows how the environmental aspects of sustainability is also kept. In a circular economy, economic activity builds and rebuilds overall system health. The concept recognizes the importance of the economy needing to work effectively at all scales, for large and small businesses, for organizations and individuals, globally and locally. Institutions, governments, and cities play a crucial role in creating and enabling conditions for a circular economy to emerge and thrive. They set direction and they are drivers of innovation and investment. The circular economy provides a framework which allows governments and cities to realize many of their economic, environmental, and societal ambitions. Transitioning to a circular economy does not only amount to adjustments aimed at reducing the negative impacts of the linear economy, rather, it represents a systematic shift that builds a long-term resilience, generates business and economic opportunities, and provides environmental and societal benefits. The EU Commission, especially countries like Denmark, Netherlands, and Scotland, are pioneers in adapting a circular economy and implementing sustainable development and sustainable resource consumption policies. The SDGs that I feel benefit most from circular and regenerative economies are SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, and SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production. Because a circular economy ensures SDG 11 through incorporating renewable use of materials within society and reducing waste. The same goes for SDG 12, because materials are used to their maximum and are consumed responsibly, and after they can no longer be used, are turned into new products that can be used again, which maintains responsible production as there is no overproduction and waste. Furthermore, we must take into the fact that all the SDGs would directly or indirectly benefit from a circular and regenerative economy due to its recurring beneficial effect on the environment. For example, promoting other SDGs such as SDG 14, Life Underwater, and SDG 15, Life on Land, as there is less waste present to affect the wildlife. Thus, I like to try to tell all the countries and governments in this world that we should try to move towards a more circular economical infrastructure so that we can benefit and the future can benefit too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aryan, for highlighting one of the most important pillars of circular economy, the three R's, as well as emphasizing on how all the SDGs, in particular SDGs 11 and 12, play in creating circular economies. Thank you so much once again. Now, I would like to invite our next speaker, Hitasha Ghiwala, Outreach Officer, Green Hope Oman, to share her perspectives with us on how regenerative economies aid in the implementation of the Agenda 2030.
Hello, all panelists. So I will talk about several barriers of circular economy and how a few sustainable development goals help eradicate such barriers. One of those barriers is cultural barrier. It means lacking of awareness or willingness to engage with circular economy. 3 out of 5 times, cultural barriers have emerged as an impeding factor towards the transition to a circular economy, out of which lack of consumer interest and awareness are at the top. For example, a well-known oil refinery and petroleum industry burns tons of natural gas every year, which is channelized could be used as cooking gas in nearby homes. The Sustainable Development Goal of responsible consumption and production could help eradicate this barrier. Another barrier would be technological barrier. It indicates the lack of availability of technology for the implementation of circular economy. For example, the technology of desalination would be very helpful for countries with water shortages. But due to lack of technology, these countries continue to face problems. The SDG industry, innovation and infrastructure can help avoid this barrier. Regulatory barriers, it means lacking of policies and support to a circular economy. The government must impose a few regulations on recycling or responsible disposal of waste for companies. For example, governments can impose laws to segregate biodegradable waste from general waste. The SDG, peace, justice, and strong institutions can help reduce this barrier. Market barriers indicate lacking economic viability of the circular economy business. Some companies also lack the financial support for technology or equipment to transfer to a circular economy. For example, hydroponics is a type of horticulture where plants are grown in water with added minerals and avoid soil. Hence, this helps in decreasing topsoil erosion. But the equipment of this type of agriculture is very expensive and hence makes the product expensive. The SDG of economic growth would help reduce this barrier. Hence, we can see that the existing barriers of circular economy can be avoided by the implementation of sustainable development goals, and therefore, I say that the SDG should be used as blueprints to attain a circular economy. I would like to say a few examples of companies that have achieved successfully a circular economy. One of this is Timberland. Timberland has partnered with the Omni United, a tire manufacturer and distributor, to produce footwear using recycled tires. Footwear is one of the biggest users of virgin rubber. Once Timberland tires have reached the end of their product life, they are shipped to a recycling facility and turned into crumb rubber. This crumb rubber is processed into sheet rubber for the outsoles of Timberland shoes. Another company is Aquazone. This company has developed a method of upcycling wastewater into fertilizer. The wastewater is treated biochemically and the solids, water and nutrients are separated. The water can be used for irrigation or can be further recycled into drinking water. The sludge is nutrient rich and can be used as organic fertilizers. One more company is Johnson Controls. This company has managed to design a battery that is 99% recyclable. It is an incredible feat for a product so chemically complex and hazardous. By encouraging consumers to conventional batteries to recycle, the company has received enough materials to prevent hundreds of millions of batteries from ending up in landfills. So we can see that many companies have achieved a circular economy. This not only helps the environment but also helps imply sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hitasha, for sharing your views with us and for outlining concrete steps on how various SDGs, from SDG 9 to SDG 12 to SDG 16, can reduce the barriers that impede the creation of circular economies. I would like to now invite our last speaker, Narayan, member Green Hope Foundation, to share his opinions on which SDGs benefit the most from circular, regenerative economies. Narayan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Narayan Srivastav, and I am from the Bhumi Initiative, which works in Lucknow, India. I'm so happy to be a member of the Green Hope Foundation, and I would like to express my gratitude to Ms. Kehkashan Basu for providing me with this opportunity. I'd also like to thank the fellow speakers for enlightening me with the informative deliveries, and I was thrilled to hear from all of you. In the past few years, my observation on the structure of economy in my nation and in my region in particular has shown me how complexly nations are connected with each other, each paying the consequences of each other. Today, I'd like to highlight my observation of my neighborhood and my nation and the impact that a linear economy in just one nation can have on a global perspective. India, as we all know, is subjected to become the most populous country in the world by 2022. And as one of the panelists pointed out, the population of just one city, that is Mumbai, is almost equal to the population of the entire Australian continent. So that can one can very well imagine the magnitude of people that lie here and the amount of responsibility that India owes to a circular economy and to the world. And it's in just 2 years in future, it is supposed to become the most populous country in the world. And in the past few decades, my nation has seen a six-fold increase in its annual material consumption and is estimated to reach 14.2 billion tons by 2030. Now, the question that arises from all this information is that this vast and this enormous consumption, which is taking place as the world continues on the path of unsupervised growth in population, how much of this consumption is being treated at its final steps in our society? How much of this consumption is being regenerated, if any? Because of the ecological disadvantage of production of goods at the expense of productivity, which jeopardizes the provision of essential services to humans, such as water, air, and soil, in today's world, this is not just a matter of national concern anymore, as its consequences have to be paid inevitably by the entire world. And just as a reminder, it's not just the humans of the entire world, but includes the wildlife as well. But I believe even in this regrettable chaos that we surround ourselves with, I'm so delighted to highlight the potentially enormous scope for improvements in this sector, which will provide a huge opportunity for innovation and employment on a global aspect, as the economic benefits of transitioning to a circular and regenerative economy in just India, which is one nation, can provide a massive capital of 624 billion US dollars. So of this vast of capital can then be used for a number of purposes, such as social welfare, in sectors of innovation in agriculture, education, availability of clean water, and sanitization, which covers Sustainable Development Goals 1 to 6. And all this while, the very concept and framework of a regenerative economy will directly impact the world's consumption on renewable, affordable energy and the sustainability of innovation in industries, fueling and accelerating the efforts that we need to achieve Sustainable Development Goals 6 to 17. So it is evident that the structure of a circular economy requires massive participation from all sectors of society, and particularly the consumers. And as one of the panelists pointed out very clearly, that the consumer interest is something that we really need to aware people about. because people need to know about the consequences of their actions, even if it is in the smallest of the things that they do. So the importance of awareness of sustainable goods and their demand will stitch the society, environment, and sustainability, the three factors together. So in lucid words, this transition will see the light of the day only and only if we achieve a change in the societal mindset and connecting our society to the principle of sustainability. And as the moderator asked, in my opinion, I believe the circular regenerative economy holds a particular promise for SDGs 11, 12, and 13. The 13th SDG, which is based on climate action, is closely linked with the emissions and waste generation of city, which will greatly reduce under the framework of a sustainable economy. So I'm very optimistic about the futures, and after hearing the various initiatives and various companies that have taken cover and which have taken over the world in a very sustainable way, I'm so happy, and I believe that we all can lead a sustainable way in which we not just live, but we all as humanity thrive. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much, Narayan, for sharing your views with us and highlighting how an unsustainable linear economy system in just one country can have far-reaching impacts globally. Indeed, we all have to play a role in the creation of a circular economy. I would like to thank all the panelists for such an insightful discussion. Let us now move on to our question and answer session. The first question is from Joshua. Joshua, you will now be promoted to a panelist.
Good evening. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is to Dr. Reagan. What is the time frame by which it is practically possible to convert our current system to a circular economy model where the majority of the employment is based on green jobs?
Well, thank you for the question, and congratulations on being promoted to a panelist. I mean, it's a very hard question. I mean, in terms of what the United Nations hopes is that by 2030, we'll be well on our way to a circular economy, again, an equitable, both environmentally and economically just society. But we all know that, you know, this is a journey, not a destination. We're never going to get to something purely where we want to go. I think we need, I strongly support having the vision. I think we need to have a strong vision which has a idealized socially and environmentally just society, recognizing that this is not something that's going to be achieved tomorrow or 10 years or 50 years from now, but something that we as a humanity have to work towards. We need a goal and a vision. So, you know, hopefully by 2030, the world would be a much better place. If we look back at the predecessor to the Sustainable Development Goals was the Millennium Development Goals, I think we achieved many of them, not all of them. There's many challenges. For example, we have a pandemic, COVID-19. Who thought of that? A year ago, would anyone have said, oh, by the way, we're going to be wearing masks. Most of the world is going to be not in school. Most of the world is going to be either unemployed. I mean, we would never have expected that. As I'm sure people would have said before, other major events like world wars or you know, depending, it doesn't have to be global either. You know, if you're in some places in the world where, you know, horrific things have happened, where there are earthquakes and such. So the world is a chaotic place. It goes on. We are one part of it. Humanity is one part, and we try to have some control. But we have to recognize that, you know, we live at the behest of a planet that does what it needs to do. And so I think what we need to be able to do is, as people, be ethically, morally aligned with making sure that we have an equitable, environmental, and socially just world. And I strongly believe that if we all pull together and work together, that across cultural and from all different parts of the planet, class and so on, that I think we will go a long way. But I also to be recognized that there's no time where January or December 31st, 2030, we suddenly everything's achieved and we're off to nirvana. No, it's still going to be a struggle. You guys, and what my generation, and again, let's be clear, I'm much older than you. My generation, I think I would hope we would leave this earth as we move towards that, passing on to you at least a society that's moving in the right direction, and then it goes on to you, and then to your children and your children's children. So let's hope that's where we're going. I'm obviously very hopeful that with a panel like this and all the amazing ideas and commitments that people have here, that we will get to that one day. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reagan. Would any other panelists like to answer? If not, we'll move on to our next question from Aryansh. Aryansh, the floor is yours.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank all the panelists, first of all, for the amazing discussion. My name is Aryansh, and my question is addressed to Mrs. Sarah. Where would it be easier to implement a circular economy model? Is it in developed nations or in the global south? And what would be the reasons?
Hi. Well, I think it is necessary to do it everywhere, like on the global level and in all different societies everywhere. And what is easier? I'm not really sure. Like, of course, some parts are easier in developed countries, but other things are easier in developing countries. So it's like, it really depends on the context and where you are. And the problems and barriers will be different depending on where you are also. But I really think that when we achieve circular economy, it will be more fun to live on Earth, and we will have more trust between people, and we will have more compassion and happiness. And so there is actually only things to win. And but to manage to achieve that, we have to break a lot of habits, and a lot of actors. Well, most actors actually already want a circular economy if they understand what it is. But maybe some people think that they will lose, like in some industries will think that they will lose money on it. But then we have to support them to see that there are opportunities and that there are like opportunities to transform businesses into something more sustainable and to create new green jobs. And the youth have a lot of like an important role in that everywhere, both in rich and poor countries, to stand for innovation and for creativity, and also to support each other and like take examples from one place to another place and to develop them and adapt them into what works in the place where you are. So, and we have to work on all different levels, local to national and global, and just support each other and get everybody on board. So I'm not sure if it was an answer to the question, but I think there's so much that everybody can do, and many small actions will lead to the big changes that we need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Would any other panelists like to answer?
Yeah, let me expand on that a bit from my own perspective. Our previous panelist said, I think it's a global challenge, and we all should take responsibility as one world to move to a more circular economy. Let us just direct this to the Sustainable Development Goals. It is made up in a form that it affects every part of the world, disregard of how poor or rich you are. So basically, we can use these goals and their targets to transform from a linear form of an economic system to a more circular and sustainable one. I mean, we cannot do it partly, because if you do it partly, definitely you are not going to go anywhere. You're going to have huge portion of our earth who definitely is not going to be moving with you, and with the limited amount of people who are going to be moving ahead with circular economy, that's not going to help our earth in no way. So basically it requires all of us collaboration. Is a world effort in this struggle. So basically it includes everybody.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. Anyone else? Moving on, our next question is from Ananya from India. Ananya, you will be now promoted to a panelist.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to hear from you all today. So my question is addressed to Dr. Reagan. Sir, there are many stakeholders in the successful transition to the circular economy, be it the government or the civil society, the policymakers. So what should their role be, and who should be leading the change? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thank you so much, Anya. It's a really important question, and I think it's not an easy question. So, for the people here, I would say definitely from the grassroots up. I mean, there needs to be grassroots movement to actually affect change in the long run. But every player needs to be involved, but but they have different strengths. Oftentimes, what I see happening is grassroots people try to become the United Nations. United Nations try to become grassroots people, and we all have different capacities. And I think we have to play to the best of our ability those capacities, and as well convene and bring in all the others, which is what we see happening with Green Hope here. We see all these different players. I mean, I'm from the UN, and let's be clear, I'm part of a huge bureaucracy, sometimes inaccessible, has big ideas, but I mean, the UN plays a critical role, especially UN Habitat, which is a quite small UN agency, yet we have a mandate of sustainable urbanization, so we have ideas. And we see huge value, as the presentation I gave, in working with youth groups and youth-led groups. And my background is coming from working with youth-led organizations and supporting them. So I think there's a couple things. One is to recognize that it's great to bring everyone together. Two is to recognize that it's often very challenging, very frustrating. You think, why can't you do it my way? I have the best idea. And I would suggest to you that you just kind of have to keep moving forward. Find allies in the system. If you're speaking for the many youth-led organizations here, and as Kakishan, I think does extremely well, is the ability to engage allies, find people who you can work with, who can move things further in different ways. I mean, I think that the end goal is to create on the ground real change, not fake, but real change on the ground, but also to look to policy and how to affect policy, because in the end, there will always be government. Government will not disappear. So people may be frustrated with it and they think it's corrupt sometimes and so on, and especially there will always be local government from UN Habitat's perspective. So with that, government is kind of the brains, the knowledge, the history of what goes on, and that's where policy comes in. Policy gives you the frameworks to do stuff. Without policy, you would just do things again and again and again without any framework to work within. So we need to recognize the strengths of each of the sectors, try to make sure all the sectors are in, and if some of the sectors aren't there or you're being excluded, then you need to push yourself in. And then find allies within the different parts, whether it be local government, national government, the UN, to move forward an agenda. So it's, again, not a simple answer. It's not one sector only, it's all sectors. But I think it's you as young people and the youth groups here in Green Hope to continually bringing back these groups and reaching out to the UN and national local governments to make sure that we collectively move forward global society. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reagan. Would anyone else like to answer?
Yes, I would like to. I agree with Mr. Regan. We need to all work together. We cannot just blame the government. We need to recognize the unique skills that everyone brings to the table so that we can bridge the gap between policy making and grassroots actions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hitasha. Our next question is from Ananya Orpe. Ananya, you will now be promoted to a panelist.
Thank you so much, panelists, for this wonderful discussion. My name is Ananya. I am from Dubai. My question is for all the panelists. How does circular economy prevent environmental degradation?
Would anyone like to answer?
I'd like to.
Narayan, you have the floor.
Okay, so there are a lot of ways, I believe, in which the circular economy will accelerate our fight towards climate justice, and that is like the basic perception will be regarding the waste generation that a linear economy may lead to. But I think it's much more than what it looks like. And if we dig deep and if we look into depth, we'll find that as a circular economy runs, so does the society and the basic thinking of people change too. As in the earlier question, as the panelists were answering about how consumers need to be aware that these are the products that they're buying and what consequences they have. So in this way, if a circular economy is functioning in a society, that society is also responsible and that society is aware about the consequences of their actions. So that in turns leads them to be a very responsible citizen and makes their life sustainable. So I think that circular economy not only has direct applications to the climate action that we fight for, but also on the long run, it is much more sustainable because it not only deals with actions of people, but also their mindset. So it in terms, it's a long process which defines and I think which guarantees sustainability.
Thank you so much, Narayan. Hitasha?
I totally agree with Narayan, and I would like to add is that the circular economy has so many benefits that lead that would directly lead to this sustainable development of the environment, and it will directly help us because there are so many things like reducing wastage and helping all the resources to be done fully and used fully. So I think that it has direct implication to sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, Hitasha. Would anyone else like to answer?
Yeah, let me answer. Okay, thank you, Anaya, for the beautiful question. Definitely, circular economy will play a very vital role when it comes to preventing environmental degradation. Because we're going to use our resources wisely and we're going to manage them so that they can be used and we enjoy the maximum value from every aspect of it. It's going to go into a very long loop of economical cycles, going to lead from one material product to another, going to be used by one society to another. With that, they're going to decrease our extraction of natural resources. So that alone play a very vital role when it comes to degradation of our earth. So yes, it play a very vital role, and it can prevent that.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. And thank you everyone for your questions. I shall now give the floor to Kakishan, who is the lead discussant for today's side event. Kakishan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pragna. And thank you so much to all the panelists for this discussion. It has been extremely fruitful, and you've truly brought together some amazing and multidisciplinary perspectives. And from today, we have heard that change is never easy, but in today's context, that is the only way forward. And the Sustainable Development Goals framework needs to be accelerated across all goals and targets, not just focusing on one, to bridge this immense divide that currently afflicts our societies. And we really do need economic growth, but it can never again come at the cost of the environment and society, and one that only benefits a few. So circular economy solutions need to be that mechanism that requires the adoption across the global, regional, and local frameworks, as our panelists so succinctly put it. And we need transformative policies and financing models that support such a change. We need laws and review mechanisms that can aid in its implementation. And for all its destruction of human and economic life, this novel coronavirus has created an opportunity for lasting change, in part because it has laid bare the shortcomings of what the world that existed well before this pathogen made its way around the world. The financial crisis a decade ago did exactly the same, but the world did not rise to the challenge, and we're still living with the vestiges of that failure when the virus leapt from animal to human in late 2019. So now the problems are, if anything, larger, but the intellectual environment around them is much more vibrant, and the political will to attack them shows some promising signs of life. So I definitely feel that there is reason for hope, but not for complacency, because if this better recovery is based on local circular economy solutions, then we would be sowing the seeds of a healthier, fairer, and greener globalization that can be nourished in a more resilient approach to multilateralism. And if we are able to start this process, then 2020 would not be remembered for just the pandemic, but also for the beginning of a more equitable future that benefits our planet, beginning with the creation of circular economies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kakishan, for your insights. I would now like to request our panelists to give their concluding remarks in 30 seconds. Let us begin with Mr. Regan. Mr. Regan, you have the floor.
Hi, thanks again. Thank you so much for inviting me to this really fascinating panel. I think it's been a really great discussion. It's brought out all the different aspects of the circular economy, again, whether it be the economic, the social, the need to produce better, to build back better. I mean, I think my last thing would just be that we now see, as said by Kakishan, that we're at the end of this global pandemic. And yes, it's been very difficult and it's horrific, some of the many people that have got sick and died, but nonetheless, we have an opportunity to build back better. We have an opportunity that, whether it be due to reduce climate change emissions and such, to look at our society and say, what do we really want and what do we value? And I think what this panel here has really highlighted is we value a better world, a most socially and equitable, environmentally sound world. So I'm more heartened as we go forward. I congratulate everyone for all the work they're doing, and wish you all the best in the coming years. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Regan. Sarah, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you from my side as well. It has been very inspiring to hear all of you share your perspectives. And I'm sure that if we keep working together, we here and with everybody else we meet in the world, we will achieve so much more together. And the circular economy is really an opportunity to to create the life that most people everywhere want, and to solve a lot of problems, interconnected problems, from environments to social and the economy, and to just make everything much better in so many ways. So let's continue working on grassroots level and on global level and everything in between to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Aliyu?
Thank you so much to Green Hope for providing us the platform to really just get all the views and perspective about circular economy. Indeed, it is a great time today and a wonderful time learning so much. Again, let me re-emphasize our voice as one people. To obtain a circular and sustainable economy, we need the effort of everyone, every sector, cross-sectional, cross-continental, cross-races. It's not a one-man thing, but it's a team. And as we team together, we obtain and enjoy a better and a great world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. Erin, you have the floor.
I'd like to conclude by answering a very important question that was posed by one of our viewers who probed what the stakeholders' roles should be and if they should lead the change. To all our viewers today, as cliched as this may sound, it begins with you. I'm a proponent of the butterfly effect, small grassroots changes that lead to significant societal reformations. This means that when we have a team of committed individuals, such as yourselves, who are so passionate about leading changes and actions in your communities, then this bodes well for the future of humanity. There was an article that was released a few months back about that the coming years would be the tipping point of global warming and climate change. You have a solemn duty and a moral obligation to change and prevent this ominous foretelling. Again, I'd like to say that I truly am honored to be on this panel, and I hope that before this new year, 2021, dawns upon us, we can all create intricate targets and goals that focus on the SDGs that we will strive to accomplish, and ultimately, as Mr. Doug said, begin the decade of transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. Aryan, the floor is yours.
I'd like to start off with saying that I'm really happy to be on this webinar. Like, I've learned so many things before. We can move to the future by enabling a circular economy, and I'm all for it. Like, I really respect what everyone is doing and what with all the steps that we've taken to moving towards a circular economy, and I feel we should just go for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aryan. Hitasha, you're next.
I would like to conclude by saying that the circular economy is highly dependent on sustainable development goals. These initiatives help our environment to restore its natural beauty, and therefore, it is our responsibility as being the current residents of this home to enforce such initiatives and create global awareness for the betterment of our society. I would also like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Kehkashan and all the panelists for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Hitasha. Narayan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I would like to say that I'm extremely grateful and I'm extremely honored to be a part of the panelists and to be here discussing this important issue today. I really hope that as we enter another year, that is 2021, I really hope that we overcome the challenges that we face in terms of education and awareness, because there's a lot of educated people who don't know what a circular economy is, all the while a circular economy being the very tool which will accelerate our goals, which is climate justice, or even the basic goals such as clean water and sanitization. So I really hope that we achieve and we are successful in making people aware of their consequences, because many a times even I feel that my little actions, what those actions have is on a very small magnitude. But I also realize that that is something which one person cannot make a difference, but difference can start from one person. So that is something we really need to take into account. And we also need to be really responsible of our little actions, because those actions become habits, and those habits define us and define us as a society. So thank you so much. I'm so honored to be a part of this program today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Narayan. That brings us to the end of our panel discussion. Once again, thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today and enlightening us with your perspectives on circular economies and highlighting its importance in accelerating SDG implementation. The roadmap for recovery has to be built on the framework provided by the SDGs because that is the only comprehensive blueprint that addresses all global as well as local issues in all its dimensions and complexities. It will also require solutions that reduce pressure on the environment, improve the security of the supply of raw materials, while boosting economic growth, which are in essence the drivers of a circular economy. Today's discussion definitely showed us the path so that we can create a new normal that is equitable, more humane, and resilient. As we always remind everyone in Green Hope Foundation, the pandemic is not over. Please wear your masks, follow social distancing, and protect your loved ones. See you at our next webinar. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.